Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and I have a treat for you today. This is a friend that I met through our wonderful Freedom Fam, the Road to Ruta crew. Ben, and you will see him. You guys might know him as Skullcap SaVant, and he and I geek out on steganography together. He's really into the V steganography, and then I started telling him like, oh, I'm seeing this Z everywhere, and I was really drawn to the Z steganography, and so maybe this will be a series where we kind of flesh those out. But check out his channel. We are going to dive in and kind of put some things together, do a little preview of his next video, or preview of thoughts of ideas that he's going to talk about in his next video. But he's also going to talk about some things that he just did in his last video, and it's all about Oz and all about us. So I'll see you guys back in just a sec. Give us a like and share the video. Hey, Ben, welcome back. Great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for setting it up. We're destined to talk today no matter what, but we're going to do a live to bring everybody else in the audience and on the secrets of Oz that are transpiring in
that are being uncovered. Yes, it's really exciting because I feel like it really has to do with we touched on a little bit of it before we got started, but it really talks about like us regaining our sovereignty and freedom from that corruption and that slavery system, which is the Fed note and this third-party money system that we've been entrapped in for so long. So kind of catch us up on your last video and some of the things that you wanted to share today.
Yeah, so I guess I can actually...
Can you screen share? Or I can
share. Yeah. I have it set up with my OBS. I've just got to go to it here. So I think I go.
I do not know how to work that system. I tried that one time.
There and there. There we go.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So if everybody is unfamiliar with the work that I do, it's probably a good primer exercise to kind of give you a heads up of what steganography is, because that's what we deal with in my community, the vCipher community. I recently switched completely over to Rumble. It's a lot smaller over in Rumble, but it's a more complete sampling of my library because YouTube just started piecing it out. I had a decent amount of followers about 2 years back when I was doing the bulk of my research into this, but I've now moved over to Rumble, so that's where to follow me. I still attempt to post to YouTube, but they cut the crap out of the videos because it's whatever, copyright infringement or topics, you know the drill. But what the V steganography is, so steganography, there's probably about to be a lot deeper understanding of what this practice of ciphering is and what it may have to do with sorcery, what it probably, in my eyes, obviously has to do with sorcery, and is a technique of hiding information almost like a watermark on your spell casting. So it's something that I came across just by way of pattern recognition out in popular culture, really. You see a lot of the same patterns arise. V and lambda, it's inverse in the Greek way. It's just, they're everywhere. You start wondering what this is all about. And that was its own rabbit hole. And it led to a lot of connection points that suggest.
That's also in the, what's it called? The Masons symbol.
Yeah.
Has a V.
Yes. This has everything to do with masonry at the heart of it. I don't know if that's the direction we need to get to, because there's a lot of technique and a lot.
Not today. I know you want to share some specific information today, and you have a great library, and I really want to encourage people to go watch your last video and stay tuned for you're going to post another one tomorrow, I believe.
I'm going to continue on with the research and post basically the high points of what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to do a deep dive in, and it might be a 4-hour-long presentation. My presentations are typically about 2.5 hours. That's about as reductive as I can get. I attempt simply to chronicle my findings in a way that I can talk about it along the way. So it's stamped in time so we can go back and reference it. It's my work isn't easy to get into and digest, because to understand it completely, you kind of have to start it like a book and literally go back to the beginning of my research and watch it all the way forward to see how the understanding unfolds, because it builds on each other. Even topics we're going to go into today are referencing some of my very first videos because of the foundation that's set with the understanding of it. It seems very deep-seated magic that has very deep and maybe very serious implications. As I get very deep into it, what it's hiding from us, and as an artifact of the spellcasting itself is interesting, but I'll try and keep it simply to the identifying marks today. Steganography with this V character seems to be all over popular media in a way that indicates a few different things: mind control, false history, money systems being magic in nature and magic only. It's like a perceptive thing. And then, you also have everything underneath that, which is mathematics and the ether, the understanding of the ether. The point that I've come across with the research is that if you are looking at man as a number of digits, it's all about 5. We have 5 fingers. These are, in alchemy, these are the power digits. That's a lot of the deep-seated mystery.
We also have 5 extensions off our torso: your head, your arms, your 2 legs. If you think about, we are like the starfish kind of thing. Kind of goes into that. Yeah. And we needn't get into some of the more like esoteric implications of it here. I want to point to some of what the research recently and all throughout the way has shown to be tied in with this theme of Oz, and maybe just focus on those things, because what I think that I have uncovered with the use of this glyph, because that's what it is. It's an ancient glyph. A lot of these letters that we even use today, they're just different derivations of things that have been used in the past and in different ways. And it's a deep study. It's linguistics it's like symbolic linguistics. It's a weird thing to penetrate. But what I think I've stumbled onto is the mechanism, or one of the mechanisms, by which the spellcasters, the sorcerers, have imbued certain qualities, whether by technology that we don't understand, or the sorcery process, which truly I don't think understand deeply enough, and have imbued these things onto popular culture in a way that's kept us dampened, in a way that's kept us from seeing it. And whatever mechanisms are at play, I think the V steganography is simply an artifact of showing us that. And one of these things, Oz, as everybody understands, it's almost the classic example everybody understands, at least especially in the Road to Ruta community, because it was so key to the codex that Bix used to decode the comics. And it's this veil that's being kept from us, the wizard behind the curtain and pulling the curtain away to reveal the secrets, right? And it's been very thematic of our time, of our age, of us living through the unfolding of that process. But what I think is now happening is we're getting to the point where we're finally going to reach that pulling the curtain back moment. And I think using the V steganography as a guide or a credential of sorts to make an educated guess at when that might be, I think we're looking at July 19th of this year for that very event to happen, however it may happen. Is it all going to happen at once? Are we just all of a sudden going to get an outpouring of UFOs and money has already collapsed and who's in space and what's the moon all about? I don't know. But it does interestingly also line up with the findings that Cliff High, who most of the people in your audience, I think, also are, doesn't need any introduction on his stuff is all about, but he's pointing to the emotional triggers of something. Yeah, and just to clarify, because I had the same comment just before we got started, a lot of us are looking for or anticipating the couple days in June, which is around, a little bit after Trump's birthday and Flag Day, but more around Juneteenth or into the 19th or 20th. And so you're talking about that maybe a banking issue, which could be the dog pulling the curtain back, but then we would be landing, you said specifically, or you were seeing clues pointing to that we would be landing from that tornado in Oz.
Well, my interpretation of events
July
ahead of time, it would indicate, I think, that that's the case. It's
Okay.
And to be clear with people, Cliff is talking about 2 different date ranges in his tweets lately. It's financial troubles in mid-June, and then July 15th onward, basically, or July 15th or 16th onward is when the big emotional trigger happens. So perhaps that you can conclude that the financial triggering of whatever is going to occur is not serious enough yet to cause all the emotions to outpour, which is really what his data always suggests anyway. And that's maybe what we're pointing to with the Awakening of Oz, whatever this is, on the 19th. So anyway, what the entry point into talking about all this, now that we've given kind of high level view for people who have never heard the word steganography before, the book, by the way, is the Steganographia, is going to be translated into English for the first time and is being released in September. So perhaps we'll get a lot more nerds like me that understand this stuff once that book gets translated to English, and it's an ancient Greek text in and of itself. But things that in your world have come colliding into my research. You're in Oklahoma living through Tornado Central right now. And that's kind of where, and that's really the reason why I wanted to talk to you and pick your brain on it. And it kind of
just one more thing that I don't know if you're aware of, on, would it be a Thursday or recently there was a 3.5 earthquake in my town specifically, not just Oklahoma City, but in Edmond, which is just north of Oklahoma City. I wasn't there. I had left that day before to come here to be at mom's. And so I was very worried about all the glass in my house. So I called a friend, but they were like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, that's a baby one. That's not going to do much.
Well, in Oklahoma, that's not a baby one. I know you live somewhere else where that might not.
I lived in Seattle and went through some pretty big ones when I was a kid. Yeah. The Ring of Fire and such.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add that one piece of information. And then today again, this morning, I woke up and they were like tornadoes again in Oklahoma today. Yeah. So they're under, and they said severe destruction for like central and west in a big red area, big red zone. So that's just happening kind of all around.
And it seems like the forecast is just, it's a never ending for it. Whatever the 10-day forecast is, it's just this perpetuating you guys this season anyway, or just every day in harm's way, right? It's just what all the
pretty much, and not just people in Oklahoma, but like my mom's in Arkansas, and I was trying to find a time to go walk today, and we were trying to, figure out when to take out the dogs and whatever. And it has just been like torrential downpour. And that, Cliff High's data talked about rivers in the sky, and we're seeing all this flooding now in Texas, and some of this. So, I don't know if that's part of this timing as well.
I think it's right on, because remember, I found his data in college is where I came across it. And so I think it was like 2007 onward. I was pretty religious about going and reading all of it. And they talked about back then around the event that he was calling the Israeli mistake, which I think everybody now knows what that is, with events since October. There was also companion language for what would be being called the ill winds, the IL, like wind, the ill wind. And the ill wind would be the thing that was like traversing the globes in some sort of a jet stream that was poisoning people. And I'm wondering if that's also not the occurrence now of what we're seeing with the Chemtrail Awareness Month, and chemtrails are now in the popular opinion of people, and they're able to speak to that a little bit more openly. And that was the thing that woke the public up, even in the reports of like, oh, we're being poisoned, and there was action being taken. It was pissing everybody off. And I don't know. It just seems I agree with you that we are getting toward all like the inflection point where all this language is coming to fruition. So anyway, did I lose you? I don't see you on the stream anymore. I'm going to check the YouTube. Yeah, I'm still seeing you on the YouTube stream. Did I lose you? I think we might have lost Lisa, guys. I might just continue on with this, though. However the case may be. Let me see if she's going to enter into the chat here. I don't want to go too far into this without her. Otherwise, we'll just have to backtrack anyway. You lose connection. Hello. Let me see if I can get my phone. Oh, no. Okay, there she is. She did say, okay, I'll carry the show here. All right, sorry, guys. So she said her screen went completely black. She's facing these issues as we speak.
Okay, my whole computer went down. Turn off.
Why are they attacked? Is it all my shungite? Is that why I'm not getting attacked right now?
I don't have any shungite.
I'll bring you some down.
Mom has some. She's gonna rescue us. I don't have any.
Well, yeah, the audience heard all of that. I didn't realize I actually lost you until I was done with my little conversation. My tee up.
No, it's okay. I'm just glad that you could keep going. So whatever happens, just keep going, and we'll figure it out.
I guess so. It wasn't. It was mostly the preamble stuff that you and I discussed before the call, anyway. So the audience is caught up to speed. But it's interesting, yeah, that now we're going through whatever this emotional tension is, and believe it or not, like line up long term with the findings in my research. There are some themes in my research, such as what New Jerusalem really is. There's this theme of the calendar ritual, which I can show where the desyncing happened.
Wow.
within a certain degree of whatever the steg is, confirming or not, and showing that by way of the icon of Batman, believe it or not, the comic book character Batman, Batman's story is the key to the calendar that's messed up, the false calendar.
Okay.
What we're really going through here is a calendar reset to the correct timing of things. You know how Cliff is also always talking about like timing, and timing
Back
is being
to the future.
Yeah, and in all of Nikolai Kozyrev's work suggests that you can actually play with time and flux it and concentrate it into things. And it almost makes me wonder if there's not some sort of a technology being used on us to dampen the time around the planet or something. And this is all deep woo stuff that if you really want to watch the work, it's interesting. I think you be the judge, come to your own conclusions. That's all I do with my stuff. I don't ascribe that any of it's gospel or anything, but the connective points are undeniable. It's pretty weird.
It is pretty weird, but it's all, if we rethink, like if we've been dumbed down and told these wrong systems, taught the wrong math, so that things don't add up right, so you can't see, or you've never been shown the color purple because so you can't choose it. So now we have an option to, because like right now, I don't know if you know Terrence Howard. I just learned about him. Thanks.
I don't know if I know about Terrence Howard. What's Terrence Howard?
Wow. Okay. Terrence Howard is I hope I'm saying his name right now that you said that. He is a actor who's brilliant, and he wants to challenge math, and he's found this loop with the square root of 2 that kind of breaks our current math structure apart. But to me, that also goes with, so I homeschool, and we are being given, but it's being withheld right now, this new math system that they're rolling out with our homeschooling group, Classical Conversations. And they keep showing us like art and pictures. And I'm like, what the heck does that have to do with math? Yeah. And so we're supposed to have a training on it later this summer, but it keeps getting pushed back for different reasons. And then they'll give us like 1 page of it. And I'm like, is that, do we need new math to be able to break out of this loop or cycle to have that new understanding of a different concept of our structure of our world? Like that we're not just these meat suits and, 3D.
Well, we have to stop counting everything. Not everything is countable. And so that in that same way, I think that's really what the psyop on the math is it assumes everything is countable. And what Greek math tells us is it's actually not. That's why you get these weird spit outs in phi ratio. And phi ratio, by the way, if you look at its expression, it's the angular dynamic by which life propagates. Also, like it comes out of the pentagram. The pentagram is the sacred shape that has 3 of those interlocking.
The 369, is that what you're talking about?
That is, the pentagram is the 369 because it's the 3 interlocking triangles.
Okay.
All it's if you look at it, and all of those triangles have phi as their hypotenuse ratio. 1 to 1 to phi is the mathematical structure of this.
When you're saying phi, do you mean pi?
No, phi.
3.14? No, phi is something different. I have to
1.618. Yeah, it's the golden ratio. It's the expressive ratio of the Fibonacci sequence. It's the mathematical counting, the approximation of it is the 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. It goes out to infinity. It's the spiral of the conch shell. It's the
way that the planets are moving through the universe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah. So if we look at, what is a musical note? It's a harmonic. It's not like a numerical value per se. You can start to approximate it if you really want to. If you want to start trying to count music, and that's we do kind of try and count music by way of like the tempo, but we don't need to get into the music of the spheres here.
Let's go to Oz. I want to go to Oz.
Yeah, let's like, if you again, guys, this is all there's basis to this stuff that's mystical, I guess, is how we can transition out of these little tangents that we're going on. And honestly, this is partially my fault just for not scaffolding this better, because we were kind of tossed into this conversation. But we do have some things that I wanted to get your take on also, Lisa, and that's kind of why I wanted to call you anyway. So maybe this is the part in the conversation where we transition to that and just speak to some of my findings relative to tornadoes, relative to this 19th date, and relative to tying some of it together, right?
Absolutely. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So
let me make this the screen again. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to show is this. This is one of the reports from, I think, last week. But it was the first thing that turned me onto it, because as you can see, it says 55 million under severe weather threat. So for people unversed in the VSTEG, what we look for is some common numerology that's used. 55 is used a lot. The 5x5 thing, even with Q, matches up with this, and all sorts of stuff matches up with 5. The numerology of 5 times 5. So if you just do the extrapolated math of 5 times 5, that's 25. And then even if you do 5, 5, 5, 5 times 5 times 5, 125. So these values, they come up a lot. And not only that, but 22 comes up most significantly all over the place, because a V is in Victor. You write it in Roman numerals. Remember, it's number 5, the number of man, the number of manipulating man. Therefore, if you use it right, is my supposition. And 22 is what it denotes in the English alphabet, because it's the 22nd letter. So these are just
one more thing in common is 5x5 is a military comm, traditionally used for confirmation of something. Yes. So like when you see the V, that may be a confirmation of something happening or a message or whatever. That may be the conclusion.
That's actually what I've always assumed was some of the subtext. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, and you'll start seeing this, I promise. Like if you guys start looking around, anybody watching this stream, to headlines, to popular music, to music videos, TV shows, movies, it's incredible where it's all programmed in. I don't know who's in charge of making sure that the VSTEG is put into virtually all of our popular culture, but it's there.
Mom,
don't. And so anyway, even in these little reports and the headlines, you can gather a lot. But it was curious to me. I started looking into it before May. So this was the end of April, I think. So I started looking into this stuff regarding the tornadoes, because as in my last video, you guys might want to find out there's a whole sequence I did in here where we'll go over today too. I'll just pull up the clip. But we've been decoding. I've been making videos again since about the Super Bowl. I've making them about every 3 weeks. That's all I can fit in. And we've been decoding the latest ritual since the Super Bowl and the implications from before. We're incorporating, again, it's kind of a building on its research. But we have Twisters, which was advertised in the Super Bowl for the first time. And that was the connection we were drawing to a lot of other things, you know, supposing Jim Carrey's in the Biden mask right now. And what does that have to do with Ace Ventura? There's a big Ace Ventura ritual with the Super Bowl. Buffalo is in play for some reason, and Mars is.
There was just a white buffalo born like yesterday or day before.
I know. I saw that too. And
okay.
I don't even know if we can get there today or not, but I that's one of the ones I didn't even factor into my presentation, Lisa. It's crazy. It's OJ Simpson dying had a shit ton to do with it. I mean, everything to do with that. He played for the Bills for his whole time there. There's a bunch of the Rainbow Bridge in Buffalo. There's a couple of themes in these videos you can expect, but the Rainbow Bridge in Buffalo was crashed into by a Tesla, which was remote. I think remote controlled and crashed into the Niagara Falls Bridge.
Really?
The Rainbow Bridge. This was back in October.
Okay.
But the people caught it on tape. Yeah, there's a lot to do with Niagara Falls because it was the first place Nikola Tesla installed his invention of the hydroelectric dam. There's a statue of him there it's right there at the crossing at the border. And so again, these are these things that these denote. The Rainbow Bridge has a lot to do with Oz too, because you are now in Technicolor when you're in Oz. You're no longer living in the black and white world where you're in the dark and everything's dreary. And sure enough, everybody that knows about Bix's work and the Wishes and Rainbow series, and you know, it's all there. But the twisters, the tornadoes, the things that I tied in with the Super Bowl video, a lot of things started to come apart at the seams in the popular spectrum of the world because where is it? People started becoming aware of the Left the World Behind video, the Leave the World Behind video. And everybody remembers this scene now. In between, while I'm doing all this work, the bridge got crashed into by the container ship, and there was a really exciting moment for me when I saw this, and I said, "Oh my God!" Everybody's looking at this. Everybody is now looking at steganography, at least in a rudimentary way, to see like, wow, there's some predictive programming going on here with these events that are leading to these things that I'm seeing in quote unquote real life. So this white lion scene, as you see, the white lion is tied right onto the side of this ship. This is about where the public understanding stopped, though. I was hoping to see people go a little bit further, but they just took it at face value and kind of moved on. But this is actually where the story only gets a little bit crazier and more interesting from my perspective, because I'll just show the Twisters trailer and maybe not show the sound, but go to... because I don't know, I just don't want to get your channel dinged. But if you go to a minute in, exactly a minute into the video, this is the first bit of steganography I saw with the Twisters trailer, at least. This is the same trailer that came out in the Super Bowl. And just like in the first Twister movie, it's not like that much different, but it's, if you notice it, there's the V, and Dorothy is the name of the device. And this is the little canister that they send the little drones out of and stuff. And they release that up into the tornado. And then they see, this is hilarious to me too, because this part of the trailer signifies like the green energy agenda, just like crashing to its knees because of, you know, all of the wind farms and stuff that are so prevalent out in your area. But this right here, so you see this truck now come into the equation. Where is it? And this is where it all starts to tie together with more Oz stuff. Do you see the white lion on the, it's a white truck The ram is the sign of Aries.
It literally says lion on it.
It just says lion on a white truck, right?
Wow.
And so this is where the story begins, where you start to piece together, well, this particular sequence into whatever is unfolding in front of our eyes, whatever programming is installed on top of us that matches up with these ritualistic events. Again, this is kind of what the VSTEG shows us, guys. It's like the way I describe it to people is VSTEG is like you can build a puzzle that's missing a bunch of pieces. Like, say you have 80% of the pieces of a puzzle, but it's the rec center and people have come and they've lost them over the years, but you can still build enough of the puzzle where you can see and interpret where the rest needs to be fit in. And steganography helps you with that. It helps you see kind of that watermark behind whatever's happening here. So my argument with this is that this is all part of the ritual that's showing this stuff happening. There's a lot of bridges as the theme here. There's a lot of tornadoes. They're the theme here. And July 19th so happens to be the release date of this film, Twisters. And so, oops, that's a different movie, but Twisters is coming out July 19th. July 19th is also significant because it's the 55th anniversary of the moon landing. So you start to see like, oh, okay, well, what does the moon landing have to do with, I mean, the moon landing has always been part of my work, but it is a huge demarcation point in my eyes. Plus, you've got the Sirius dog star rising over the lion. So remember, the Sphinx used to be a lion. A lot of people don't maybe accept this fact. And this is, by the way, this is where phi may eventually reach us today. This is the phi ratio. This is the new Deadpool movie coming out. Notice anything about this steganography? This is phi steganography. Look at the Super Bowl this year and from Vegas. You see the phis that are just like randomly in the Deadpool has something to do with this too. I don't know if we'll get there tonight, but if we go down here all the way to the bottom,
look at the Satan, the little devil behind him on the. Oh,
I know. This is, by the way, I use this to show steganography in photos. So do you guys see, this is a picture of George W. Bush with the advisor in 9/11. And this is an AI generated image of Gaza, but it's actually this image. Do you see the ear and the eyes and the collar?
In that picture,
like, be careful. Like, you don't know what you're being programmed.
What you're being programmed or seeing. Mm-hmm. So look right above his head. There's a girl's face with green barrette.
Yeah, with the green red.
But it's horns. So what does that translate to in that picture? What is that's the military guy standing there? Yeah.
Well,
right.
I don't know if it's even Emerald City suggestive. I don't know if but it's where is my photo? Oh, here it is. It's up here. Here's my photo of the lion. So this is the Sphinx now. And this is what was taken out of the Sphinx. It used to be a big friggin' lion. And what I actually figured the reason why this was done is to hide the fact that we, at the point when the dog star rises in the appropriate year, which I think might be this year, based again on all the other research I've done to show the other rituals that lead up to this. It's all astrologically based, guys. I'm always using the astrology and the stars to like line up the steganography to the dates, but this is a significant time. If you watch my videos, 2020 was actually a significant time too. I think Cliff was totally correct in the year zero assessment of things, even the reset of the star clock. It all pointed to year zero being 2020, year one being 2022. And we'll maybe look back at that point in time always as saying, that's when I can't hear. I think you're muted.
I am sorry. We have lots of dog noise going on. So I was trying to save everyone for that. Isn't that the time when we went from Julian calendar to Gregorian? Well, I'm actually not even convinced of that. When you look at Anatoly Fomenko's work, who's the Russian guy who's actually looking at how much of history is BS, he actually looks at the Scaliger calendar. So Scaliger was a Khazarian guy, and Scaliger is actually the inventor of our current calendar. He was around 1600, was the guy that
put into effect whatever our current calendrical system is. It appears to me that there's actually a lot of debate whether or not we have 13 months in an appropriate calendar, because that would line up with the lunar calendar, where you have 13 days of equal months of 28 days apiece, and that would equal an entire year. Or if what we have now, this invented kind of out of phase, and is that part of the spell casting of time where everybody thinks that we're on a certain day, and that's enough to alter our perceptions just slightly, where they have an advantage to control us or whatever. I think that has something to do with that effect. But if you look at the secret of 33, everybody boils down to this with Freemasonry, the secret of 33, everybody points to Jesus being 33 years old when he was crucified. Fine. I don't even know if we can prove that, what his actual age was. The more and more I look into it. And then the fact that it's not the spinal structure either. This is what is kind of maybe going to become a point of controversy in the next few years, even in the occult circles, but not every human has the same number of vertebrae in their spine. It's between 32 and 35 based on racial ethnicity. And I actually think that has something to do with the various genetic manipulations that the Elohim did to various racial groups. But 33 is not a demarcation of the spinal structure either.
Interesting.
But what it is it's the exact amount of days that it takes to put the calendars out of phase. So said a different way, if you overlaid the solar calendar, the one that we go by, 12 months, approximately 30, weird math with it too, right? That's the solar calendar that we observe. If you pit that against the lunar calendar, they will line up on New Year's exactly every 33 years. So I think that has a lot more to do with the spell casting that's been placed on our spiritual qualities, our perceptive qualities, with, suggestive mind control is what it boils down to. It's just subliminal programming, like marketing.
The leap year in itself should invalidate the current calendar that we're using. The fact that every 4 years we gotta adjust a little bit because you're about to fall off the edge, But anyway, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's all worth consideration at very least. I actually don't make I don't want anybody to think I'm making like an outright this is the correct argument. This is an exploration, and more likely than not, I've tried to prove it false in more ways than one. But what our conclusions are is that based on a backwards perception, therefore, okay. So what I went into all of that to suggest, okay, if we can actually be manipulated into thinking maybe that we should be going off of a different calendar, and we don't know that we're living off of a different calendar, how would the people that wanted us on a different calendar ensure that we never found out that we were on a different calendar? And so you see these types of things all over the place. Ancient caves, they have the paintings scratched off of them. Conveniently in all across India and Russia and Anatolia and all of the ancient sites in Turkey, there have been vandals that have scratched out the blue eyes because they don't want everybody knowing that the entire earth is of Aryan heritage, essentially. It's not part of the agenda of the critical race theory. So you have all of these artifacts that they occlude, but there's always enough, again, in the steganography to go back to. So, back to the lion, what it suggests is the lion originally, it seems, was supposed to denote, it looks directly at Sirius. That's what the Sphinx does. It looks at Sirius as it rises. So with a bunch of other markers, it would, and this white lion thing, the steganography points to the assurance, I think, that Walter Cruttenden is correct in that we're going into the age of Leo, not the age of Aquarius. And how that happened was a switcheroo. It's very simple. The Vedic calendar that used to be observed when Sanskrit was the language of the day, was the written language of the day, they observed a calendar that began on the autumnal equinox, not the vernal equinox. Today, it's assumed that the Vedic calendar begins on the vernal equinox. It's interesting because vernal V. I've always wondered about that myself. But what we should be doing is, instead of saying New Year's is the vernal equinox, begin it here, it's 180 degrees on the clock later. 6 months of the year, right? A full circle, 360 degrees. We revolve around in 1 year. So half of that year is 180 degrees. Well, if you come down to the actual Yuga cycle, everybody recognizes this, I think, at some point. Here's us right here, hitting the crest of the Dwapara Yuga, just as everybody suggests, but here's the age of Leo, not the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is 180 degrees away because we've been celebrating the new year of the vernal equinox incorrectly, essentially. And that's it. It's just an observance error.
And the switcheroo could be how because the elites have been storing their wealth in gold for years and years and years and years and years. But if there is a release of gold in the Grand Canyon or elsewhere, and I've been seeing everything's copper, bronze. They've been locking up the copper and bronze at Lowe's and Home Depot and all that kind of stuff. And I had some friends give me copper, and I was drawn to yellow gold, rose gold, which looks like copper or bronze or whatever. And so that resonates with me, that we are going into the Bronze Age, and that's actually going to be the standard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people that are at least tuned into this corner of the woo now, they do understand we are in this ascending cycle. We're not in the dark age. A lot of people think we're down here in the Kali. We are here, but I think it also, the reason I think it matters to know exactly the symbology and the iconography that's used for the age that you're going into, because it really does set the tone of that. Astrology is a thing. To have the correct reference point of that energy that you're supposed to be embodying, right? There's all of this secrecy behind the tribe of Dan and the book of Daniel. And the book of Daniel actually talks about the Yuga cycle in the statue. The Babylonian statue with the golden head and the silver torso and the bronze legs and the clay feet. And it also is dictated by our probable binary orbit with the star Sirius. And this is why Sirius is so important, because essentially Walter Cruttenden, everybody who wants to get deeper into this, I really do recommend. This is a wonderful book. It's called The Lost Star of Myth and Time. This is where he actually talks about these findings of the Vedic calendar being reversed. And by the way, Sri Yukteswar is the one that wrote the Holy Science and that reintroduced the Yuga cycle to the world back in the late 1800s. He agrees with Walter. I mean, that's what he was saying when he was alive. He was this master that was the teacher of Paramahansa Yogananda. And he was the one that gave us the reference points to look at the cycles in this way. He agrees that the Vedic cycle is, or the Vedic New Year is not the vernal, but the autumnal. And so Walter Cruttenden has started what's called the Binary Research Institute to show that there's a great significant effect that Sirius may be having on us and our consciousness. And there's this orbital pattern, almost like a helix. If you can look at this flat plane, this doesn't look as it would in motion, right? We all actually understand now the sun carries us behind it in a spiral pattern. But if you can also imagine, perhaps, to Walter's estimation, that we're also orbiting another sun, because even NASA admits, by the way, 90% plus of the systems out in the universe are binary star systems. So I don't know why ours would be any exception, right? They have two suns or more that orbit each other, little tiny clusters of suns sometimes. Like Sirius has a little tiny one that it captured too. So it's got like a dense one.
There are videos out there, most of them I can't find now, but they're during the day of the eclipse. There were some people posting that they were seeing two suns. But of course, I mean, I don't know where
I don't know what that might have to do with whatever they're doing with the skies, though, too. I don't know what
trails and all that.
I don't know what kind of imaging technology is being used with the moon surface. Okay. I can only fathom it so much to.
Well, and on that, I always thought, well, the moon is not glowing. The moon is reflecting the light from the sun. So we're saying the moon creates these cycles, but really it's the sun and the sun's energy. We're just seeing the moon, the effects on the moon, but we're being affected by the sun's cycles.
Well, I think the magnetic effect of the moon also has a really big influence on us. Like think just what astrology is. It's a big magnetic soup. You know, all of these different orientations of planets at any given time mixed together to give a certain frequency readout, right? That's not something you can count.
So you know about the Oumuamua, whatever asteroid that's coming pretty quick? Oumuamua.
Yeah.
It's supposedly large enough to have a magnetic effect on us. And there's like rumors about pole shifting and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if any of that plays into your
I don't know. I think some of the pole shifting stuff is possible. But I don't know about the catastrophism of it.
Okay.
To be honest, because here's the thing, like people that are doomsayers about that pole shift stuff, they'll say like, we're going to have 900-foot tall waves. And the thing is that can't occur because there's a certain magnetic push down in our gravity that prevents waves from getting that big.
Okay. Interesting.
And
the wave is actually made by the pull, and then the repercussion of that is my understanding.
Yeah. And so, I don't know how it was, of course, like there'd be some effect, but there's another theory that I've stumbled across about how when the sun phases into a new cycle of its own, it turns off its light giving ability for 3 days and then reignites. We don't lose heat. We just can't see anything. The sun isn't giving off light. It's a plasma. It's not a fire. So it's, snuffing out a fire, of course, is going to stop producing heat, but almost like, maybe if you can think about it like a methane fire, you can't see a methane fire. It's invisible. But so the sun would still technically be burning, but I've heard that this is perhaps what the Mayans suggest. This is Maurice Cottrell's work, mostly, not my own, just coming to my own conclusion on this stuff. It's something to consider. I don't know if I even fully am there with him on this, but it's something else that I've heard. And this could lend credence to some of the reincarnation of Jesus rituals. And that's not to invalidate Jesus reincarnating after 3 days either. It just adds further significance to the ritualization of him planning it that way, kind of a thing. There's a lot of deep-seated woo just in that topic alone. So I don't even know if we should go there today.
We don't have to today.
The moon certainly does probably have at least this magnetic effect.
Yeah.
But the point of Sirius is, because remember, guys, to get back to the point, I'm bringing up Sirius only because it's rising on July 19th. Remember, this is everything we're talking about. It's kind of just July 19th. So I promise. And
the lion or the Sphinx is pointed at Sirius, watching it, and then we see all this lion tie-in.
To bring in the age of Leo, as the statue would have suggested, if somebody didn't carve 80% of the mass of it off, So I will. Yeah, that's it. Sirius, by the way, when it's closer, this is where the argument goes, is when it's closer, we experience the golden age in our mind. You know how they say we're only using like 10% of our brain. In Walter Cruttenden's conclusion, it's because we're down here. We don't have the extra cosmic energy of both suns when they're close to each other. They create this superpower effect when they're close in proximity. And almost
like magnets.
Yeah, a big magnetic flux, and it activates your pineal gland in all likelihood, and all sorts of other glandular structures in ways that we don't have access to right now. And you're a more well-functioning, spiritually in tune, superpowered Jedi person, and everybody is. You don't really have to work that hard. That's why it's the golden age. You don't have to work very hard at your intuition processes, I should say. Everyone is of the understanding of psychic abilities being unlocked. And, probably, in my opinion, the population in general is a little bit tougher to fool. If you've got an invading force, you're not going to be able to get duped by him very easily, which is why the Elohim, in my conclusion of things, probably waited till the descending to the Silver Age to attack us. And it also makes a lot more sense with things in my way of thinking about the flooding with Aquarius and the flooding that occurred with the Elohim attack and their likely let's say intervention with creating whatever the Younger Dryas impacts were. Because a lot of people even come across Graham Hancock's work with the catastrophe and the ending of the Ice Age. But what Graham curiously doesn't get into with his work is he doesn't explain why all of the impact craters are created in exactly a 90-degree angle. You would assume if it's a meteor, it's going to come in and crash through, and it's going to make a big skid mark on the ground, and you're going to see all these skid marks of impacts. His argument is that we're going through the Leonid shower, the meteor shower, twice a year, and so we're getting bombarded with. We're just barely missing a civilization-ending catastrophe every year. And I think I disagree with his assessment. I think what it looks more like to me is if you put into your mind like a sci-fi movie of a bunch of fleet ships blasting the surface with some sort of weaponry, it makes a little bit more sense. That's why the impact craters would have a 90-degree exactitude uniformly around the planet,
On the recent crypto viewing remote on the subscription thing, I can't remember if it was Daz or if it was Ed Reardon. I can't remember who it was, but they had an image of these like meteor holes that were like perfectly apart from each other, and that there would be imaging or it would be an event around that. If you guys are
investigation or archaeology dig or something.
No, it was like maybe a dew or a meteor but it was strange that they were like perfectly spaced or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It was just interesting.
See, there you go. And even we're experiencing these directed energy weapons in our lives today. So it's not even that much of a stretch anymore to even think through these things parsimoniously as you can. But so yeah, there's significance, there's weight, there's reason why there would be all of this emotional tension built around Cliff's event, I think. And I think I may be pointing to some of it here. It's what we're getting a part of. That may be why they're ritualizing the hurricanes, the tornadoes, because we're all even aware. Like,
did you see when it went backwards?
It did. It was more like a hurricane then, which is crazy.
I mean, like the weather guys are sitting there watching it, and this one guy is geeking out, and he's like, "I've never ever seen this before." It was like not the motion of the hurricane, but the direction of it. Like it always goes, northeast, and all of a sudden the pathway of it turns and goes straight north, and then actually goes northwest.
Here's a picture of it.
Unheard of.
This is it happening in sequence. So this is the tornado she's talking about. By the way, guys, significantly, this happened on May Day. May 1st. May 1st is actually Labor Day in the rest of the world. We're the only ones that celebrate Labor Day in September. And that's actually key. If you go look back at some of the memes of my work, guys, the late labor ritual. I actually decoded it correctly, but guessed it was the wrong late labor period. I thought it was a late labor period of 2 years ago until all this stuff is happening. And all of my work from 2 years back makes a lot more sense with what is kicking off on May Day.
Well, the other things that we're tying into, just to talk about calendars right now, today's Cinco de Mayo.
5/5.
Cinco de Mayo, but it's also Orthodox Easter.
It is Orthodox Easter. That's a good one too.
So that's I just got balloons again. There you go.
So anyway, guys, this is I hope we're not bouncing around too much for people to follow this little discussion, but
so tie in the Wizard of Oz. We know the tornadoes with the story of the Wizard of Oz. And I had told you that years ago I had my friend SL and I did a show with a girl that was an astrologer, but she was also, psychic or had these visions or whatever. And she was like, we were asking her about silver specifically.
Yeah.
And she's much younger. And she didn't even know she was describing the opening scene of The Wizard of Oz. She's like, there's a grandma in a chair and she's flying. It's black and white. And she's flying around in this tornado. And she's in a rocking chair. And she goes up. And then everyone's worried. But then it's okay. She comes down safely in a neighbor's yard. And I always thought that was going to be the silver thing and the connection with Mexico, maybe the USMCA thing, and be some connection with the US and Mexico, with the oil deal and all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on the Wizard of Oz tie with the tornadoes
and specifically silver.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's worth actually pulling up one of my old videos before I do that to give you context to this. This is some more Oz stag around silver. And the new Space Jam movie, the one that LeBron James was in. Mm. And Don Cheadle played the whole let me see if I can scrub this to the point where I'm in here we go. So Don Cheadle, they're inside the machine here. This is LeBron James. He's inside of a computer with his son. His son has gotten himself into like this fake world that
metaverse.
It's like the metaverse. Exactly. Gives him superpowers and wants to excuse me. It's a metaphor for mind control. And Lambda, by the way, is right on the cover. If you look at the cover of the poster, LeBron James is standing there and there's a big lambda behind him. It's not a letter A. He's standing in front of a lambda. So all of these key VSTAG markers are on here. But check this out. I'll just let this play. And I think my commentary from when I did this is also still here in the video. So you can, so the audience can kind of just let this go. This is an interesting point. And then we'll get, it is the silver and Oz kind of incarnate into preamble. So let's let it play.
I can't hear you.
Can't hear the video?
Can't hear the video.
Okay. At all?
At all.
Let me see here.
I can hear you when you're talking to me, but I can't hear you on the video, and I can't hear the video.
Hold on here then. I'm going
You might have to open it in a separate browser or tab.
Or maybe.
Well, I don't know how your system works. You got that.
It's not coming through. This isn't coming through at all? Okay. So let's do this. And
or can you send it to me in the private chat and I can play it?
And then go to the 1 hour mark, almost exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Send it to me in the private chat and then I'll do that.
And I'll just tell you when to hit play and pause and all that good stuff. Sorry, guys. I have my setup for my stream that I was gonna make, and I probably didn't disconnect my my sound feed from the recording device I was gonna use.
Okay, wait. I think I'm right. Okay. And then you said go to 1 hour or just before?
Yeah, 1 hour exactly, basically.
1 hour exactly.
Yeah. So there you go. That's where we were.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good. So we continue along here. LeBron's kind of freaked out. He's like, why the hell are we here? What the hell? What's going on? And this guy pops in, right? And let's listen to him right here, right? Like, we got to listen to him because this is the first. That's Don Cheadle. Start to see. He's the incarnate computer. Start to see some of our hallmarks of our work come through.
Get us out of here, please.
Gary. Who goes there? Who dares disturb the great and powerful algae?
There it is.
The great and powerful
algae. The great and powerful algae. Remember, his name is Al G. Rhythm. Rhythm like frequency. Frequency like in mind control. Al G. Rhythm. G as in the G on the Masonic compass. The Masonic compass represents the as above, so below determinations with the V and the lambda both. So here you go. Here's your first representation of the Wizard of Oz blanketing over the top of a father-son relationship that is actually embattled because of the material world, right? So there's your first allusion to the Wizard of Oz. And this is Don Cheadle's character. And so he's basically like trying to get these guys to play nice in his game. Talks to him about how he hates that LeBron James doesn't like his ideas, because his original idea was to. So to give a little bit, because people are going to miss a little bit of context from earlier in the video, the main premise of this movie is Don Cheadle is trying to coerce the kids into doing things by his spell casting. Essentially, it's what it is. It's technological spell casting. Kind of like getting kids addicted to technology. There's like that getting kids addicted to technology theme in the movie and such. But notice he's now wearing, I think I say this in my analysis, but you see how he's wearing a silver outfit now? He's wearing silver jacket, silver pants. So anyway, hit play. You'll see, to get them to get LeBron James likeness put into a bunch of different movies or whatever. It was a stupid storyline. But he's wearing a silver garment. So here is your representation right after the Wizard of Oz. He materializes himself into a silver garment, the silver rig ritual of the actual precious metals that are being rigged in the market that we've talked so much about. He's wearing that very color, and he's the one manipulating reality. So if he's donning the silver garment and he's the one manipulating reality, the inference is that silver is also manipulated, right? So there's that whole play to it. And it was funny because he actually like multiplied himself here. I think you guys saw it. I forgot where it was. Let me skip ahead 15 seconds until we find out where he multiplies. Because he multiplies himself into a bajillion little dudes. Oh, wait, here it is. Here it is, Lisa. So here's the silver manipulation illustrated. So he's proving that he can manipulate silver. See how he multiplies himself? It's all fake. It's all just representations of the same thing. This is your rehypothecation scenario in the markets. Just like we've talked about, right? Like this is an admission that the Wizard of Oz spell is on top of the silver markets. You can stop right there. And then when he oops. So all you guys can go again, watch further into this video. It gets more.
Sorry, my dog is losing her mind.
Oh no.
My sister got here and she's just so excited. So now she's running around barking like crazy. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You saw the multiplication, the multiplication.
Yeah, and so tell me again what the multiplication. So he was in the rigged silver suit. What was the trigger for the multiplication?
He just showed that he can do it in the movie. He's just showing off. He's
like derivatives of silver.
We're just copies of the same algae, right? So it's the whole illustration of that part of Oz. And by the way, guys, like the silver rig is not all that Oz signifies. It's just one of these weird mind control things that is layered in Oz. Oz is like this encompassing.
Where did that Game of Thrones come from? Is that in the?
It's one of the. You can keep watching it if you want. If you're interested in this, I further decode this a little bit. It's one of their properties. It was one of their intellectual properties. Warner Brothers, I think that made the movie.
Yeah,
so
that's a thing. But
yes, it is.
Can everybody go watch it?
Yeah,
and it has the phi in it. In the
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Wow.
You're starting to see the stag, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing to bring that up is because, okay, we've got the Emerald City of Oz, and I want to read a passage out of this that ties it to current day and how close we are to this silver rig coming apart. And maybe it's this June day, but maybe it's actually July where the silver comes apart, because that's where the emotional tension is. I don't know if we're going to be landing in Oz on July 19th. as my supposition suggests, perhaps there's something to this. A lot of people don't know that Frank Baum actually wrote a lot of Oz books. This is the second volume. If you see at the top, books 6 through 10 of the Oz series. And the movies cover from the first book, they cover like books, I don't know, like 2 through 8 maybe, or parts of those. Maybe 2 through 6. It's only a partial look into Oz, the little story arc of Dorothy. Dorothy goes back several times, but she has interactions with the Princess Ohm, I think is what her name is. TikTok. There's this mechanized character, TikTok. You can look at the back of the book here as it focuses. You guys see down here, it's TikTok of Oz. And they're little vignettes. They're not long, overarching chapter books. They're little vignettes, and they tell the story of Oz. And there's a lot to unpack because there are a lot of stories, and they all somehow have steganography that inference various things. But curiously, as we're talking about TikTok, in one of my previous videos, since I did the Super Bowl, there's another story I decoded about TikTok where it was now in the news because they were talking about banning it. And I was guessing how close we were to the end of the line because TikTok was even coming up at all as a topic to ban it. In the books, also, there's a character called the Gnome King, and the Gnome King is like the evil, wretched blight over the land of Oz. Like he's the insane one. And if the Gnome King probably didn't exist, there would be a lot more sanity in the land of Oz because he's like and this is where it's weird with the crossover with Alice in Wonderland. I don't know how closely Lewis and Carroll and Frank Baum knew each other. They were contemporaries though. So, I don't know how deep the masonry spell casting suggestion goes between them both, but the Gnome King is like the perfect counterpart to the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. The Gnome King is kind of like that, but in a male form. He's insane. He's off with their head type of mentality. He's also somehow in the books called the Metals Monarch. For whatever reason. So here's the passage I'll read. TikTok is talking with Shaggy. Shaggy is the brother of the Scarecrow from the movie that everybody knows. Shaggy is another straw man type character. We don't need to go into straw man illusions, I think. We
did that earlier, and then balloons went off everywhere. So
exactly.
We'll just leave that alone. And then my computer died. So
there's this character Betsy. She's talking about Dorothy, and Shaggy is with them. They're trying to go look into essentially making a dangerous trip to speak with the Gnome King. Okay. On an errand, said Shaggy, looking sad and solemn. I'm just going to read a passage from the book now, page 369, believe it or not. I'm trying to find my dear little brother. And he's speaking of the Scarecrow. Oh, is he lost? Questioned Betty, feeling very very sorry for the poor man. He's been lost for 10 years, replied Shaggy, taking out a handkerchief and wiping the tear from his eyes. I didn't know it until lately when I saw it recorded in the magic record room of the sorceress Glinda in the land of Oz. So now I'm trying to find him. He didn't even know that. So just like the regular normie, Shaggy represents the regular normie. He didn't realize the straw man system essentially existed until now. And I've been in he's been gone for 10 years, but
that's a Super Bowl thing as well. Did you see the commercial where Jennifer Aniston, where Ross walks up to her and she says, what do you mean? I forgot 10 years of my life.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Right. And there's a commercial that says you have to forget everything. Oh, how does it go? You have to forget everything to remember anything or something like that.
No way.
No, I'm not kidding.
I think I remember that commercial.
And it was about 10, she said 10 years specifically. And it was about forgetting, and how ridiculous. You think I just forgot 10 years of my life? But in this story, they're not remembering 10 years until they're shown what they forgot for 10 years, I guess. I hope I'm saying that right.
Right. They're not going to be told what they forgot. They have to come to that conclusion on their own device, essentially. They have to, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's probably a match if I had to guess with some of this. So, where did I leave off? Oh, in the land of Oz, you're trying to find him. 10 years has been lost. Where was he lost? Asked the girl sympathetically. Back in Colorado, where I used to live before I went to Oz. So this is Tesla technology, Colorado Springs, I think. You know, if I showed you another clip after this that lends the most credence to Bick's work that I think I've ever seen, it was the Super Bowl halftime show at Super Bowl 55. Actually, I'll show it to you after this that actually has more to do with that. There's only one explanation. Oh, back in Colorado before I came to Oz, my brother was a miner and dug gold out of a mine. One day he went into his mine and never came out. They searched for him, but he was not there. He disappeared entirely. Shaggy ended miserably. For goodness sake, what do you suppose became of him? She asked. There's only one explanation, replied Shaggy, taking another apple from his pocket and eating it to relieve his misery. The Gnome King probably got him. The Gnome King? Who is he? Why, sometimes he's called in this land the Metal Monarch, and his name is Rugetto. Lives in the underground caverns somewhere. Claims to own all the metals hidden in the earth. Don't ask me why. Of course, the girl says, why? Because I don't know, says Shaggy. But this Rugetto gets wild with anger if anyone digs up gold out of the earth. And my private opinion is that he captured my brother and carried him to his underground kingdom. No, don't ask me why. I see you're dying to ask me why, but I don't know. I'll end it there. Like, it continues on and on with this little anecdote about the underground caves, the gold, the Grand Canyon, you name it. I mean, there's a curious case of President McKinley that ties into Oz too, who's also contemporary with Frank Baum. He was the last president before Kennedy to be assassinated, and there's a lot to his assassination and what I suspect McKinley was doing to hold off the banking system changing hands, and has to do with his assassination. He was the 25th president, 5 times 5, and a bunch of other stuff. But there's, I mean, if that might speak again, we don't need to do a lot of things today. I haven't even done a breakdown of McKinley as president and his assassination, but believe it or not, the JP Morgan story, I think there is suggestion that the steganography shows that the character of JP Morgan himself may not have been a bad guy after all. He's not this character that kept Tesla's technology from the world. In fact, there's a court case even at the time that the Oz books are being written where JP Morgan is arguing for what's called the money trusts, and they're being taken away. And this is not proper banking because we can't do lending to somebody we don't trust. He's actually advocating in this court case against this Khazarian lawyer who's trying to install and disband the money trust. There's this whole initiative to disband the money trusts before the Federal Reserve was put into place. And I'm just suggesting here with Oz that perhaps the JP Morgan story also, as we're going to find out with this whole silver thing, is not what people think it is. I'll leave it at there for now. I even still have to do a deep analysis.
I am looking forward to that so much. So the best thing, I'm going to change my description and put the link to the video that we shared so people can continue watching that one and finish it. But then also to the recent Oz video. And then any of those will take you to Ben's channel on Rumble, and you can watch, and then stay tuned and be watching. Turn your notifications onto his channel because tomorrow or the next couple days, he will be posting kind of what's next in Oz.
I'll be posting what's really significant about the 19th specifically, right? So
of July.
What really August
right?
signifies, yeah. this is kind of a teaser because we can't possibly cover all this ground today, guys. I promise you, I was probably planning on recording for about 4 hours for this one, so it happens sometimes. But,
well, I appreciate you reaching out to me. I enjoy this so much. I love the puzzle of it, the critical thinking that's involved in it, and also the history and education that comes from it. So I hope everybody else enjoyed this as well. Please like and share the video. Give us your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what the community thinks. Does this resonate with you? It certainly does for me. So
brace for impact. You got 10 weeks, everyone. 10 weeks before we impact with Oz, whatever that means.
That's right. Pretty exciting. I'm ready for it
all too, Lisa. I mean, I have faith that you guys are taking care of yourself with all the danger in the weather and being on the front lines of it. But
yeah, I mean, I was telling you how, the earthquake hit right after we left, and then we're here, and then I guess they had the tornadoes, and then again today there's tornado warnings, but we're high up on the mountain with Mama, and we're good and safe, and I hope everyone else stays safe as well. So we'll have you on again, though. I love this. Maybe we can do a regular thing, get a schedule going or something.
I would love to. I got to get back into a rhythm with just posting more than every 3 weeks. I'm probably finally getting that back to that point where I might be able to post it like once a week. So my time is going to be dedicated to this stuff more and more, especially after the event happens, I guess, because my real quest is to help people understand steganography in general. And so if we can show the track record and the case study along the way, like I really want to go with Josh at some point and make a documentary. I want to pay him to help me edit that documentary on this stuff. Maybe
do a Kickstarter. And
we could, right?
And then do it that way, and they can get posters and listed in the credits, and I'll help you. I have ideas. I can help you get funded for it.
Well, thanks for having me on, Lisa. Thanks for the time, and thanks for suggesting we take our chit chat online so everybody else can hear it. This was fun.
Absolutely. So you guys, thanks for joining us. Once again, please go follow Ben at Skullcap SaVant on Rumble, and I will update the description on this video and make sure I have all those links in there for you. The dogs are going wild. I'll see you guys later. Bye.